Welcome to Rex Arthur Show. This is Rex Arthur TV, where we discuss LGBTQ issues with a humanistic approach. And today we are kind of on a sad note after hearing the news that the famous LGBTQ activist known by the names Val Kalende, she is a lesbian, has shifted camp. We want to call it shifting camp, and she has gone to the side, um, what you would call homophobe side, in the sense that she has renounced homosexuality. There are two different. There's one way of. There's going back to the closet is not shifting camp. There's that event in the life of an LGBTQ personality. There's an event whereby you go back into the closet. That's not necessarily shifting camp, but where you stand up and renounce homosexuality, that is shifting camp. But we must understand, you have to give, of course, let's look at the reactions. Of course, when she made the announcement, she made it in front of a huge congregation in Uganda. And so it was really very, I mean, you look at that congregation and it's like they are so happy to hear that somebody has left homosexuality. And then on the other side, the LGBTQ activists felt very bad, and we all feel bad and sad that she had to do it that way. Um, there are many ways of doing it. You could retire from LGBTQ activism and just say, you know what, I just want to be laid back. I want to go back to some life, some normal lifestyle. But what's annoying, she's actually becoming an activist for the homophobes. And it is a very interesting thing because it is time for the LGBTQ activists to also reflect, how do you treat people who go through a lot of issues? Because what I see, Val was going through a lot of his issues. She's a victim of state homophobia. She's a victim of societal homophobia. She is a victim of internalized homophobia, much as she was an activist. And even one of the other activists, Frank Mugisha, said a very nice thing, that majority of the LGBTQ activists are going through mental health crisis, depression, because of the life. It's People think the activist life is so lovely that you always go and fly out and do things, but it's not. That it is a very big price those people pay. And we always honor the leadership, LGBTQ activists leaders in Africa and in most of the third world. Yes, even in Arabia, it's not easy. Imagine, do you know the LGBTQ leader in Saudi Arabia? You see, it's not easy. It's not easy to stand out and champion for LGBTQ rights. And so I think Val, she was just exposed to a lot of the pressure and she couldn't handle it and decided to not only um, retire, but to join the side of the oppressor, or the side of the homophobe side. First of all, I want to make it clear, going to church is not shifting camp, because we have gay people who go to church. And I've dealt with the issue here. We have gay people, very many gay people, they go to the mosque. Very many gay people, they go to religious centers. That one is a fact. Even despite the fact, it's just that majority of gay people don't attend religious centers, especially when there is a lot of homophobia. But if you attend a religious center that doesn't really preach homophobia, or if they do, you have a way of insulating yourself. You know, there's some people, they are very good at insulating. And so they can sit in a place and they don't feel anything. Because sometimes there are some churches, they don't even talk about homosexuality. And life goes on. But there are others, that is the daily food. And the surprising thing, when it's the daily food, you'll find gay people in those churches. Why? Because there's a weird, it's a paradox that where homosexuality is preached a lot, it's paradoxical that there are very many homosexuals in that place. Yes, that's what happens. And of course, it doesn't happen, it's not a rule. They really mean what they're saying. They really do mean when they don't want to see a gay person in their churches, they don't want to see them. But there are others whereby they preach it, and like this, what happened to Martin Semper, Pastor Martin Semper. He was preaching against it, even brought gay porn into the church. So his attack was so extreme, he was actually recruiting, the so-called recruiting they always accuse activists of doing, which is very false. It's just propaganda, because there's no way you can recruit. I don't. It's like trying to change a cow into a lion. It's impossible. It's a waste of time. What you do is put up an organization. Those who know and have the tendencies of being homosexual, they will come to those organizations. It's simple. Those who don't have those tendencies, they will not go to those organizations. They won't go to those offices. So where is the recruiting? There is no recruiting. It's not there. So, but it's just propaganda. Anyway, I had to talk about it because just to kind of look back, because I'm also reflecting. I know I can understand if I put myself in the shoes of Val, it's understandable. The pressure is too much, especially in Africa, whereby cultural homophobia is there, religious homophobia is there, societal homophobia is there, state homophobia is there. In You're surrounded by homophobes, even if they don't attack you physically, which some do, but others don't. They just surround you. You just know the air is against you. You go to the office. So, and then when you look at the life of the people who are not affected, the straight people, their life is going well, things are going well, no one is disturbing them. So there's a sense of false calm that's created, that if you be straight, if you live like a straight person, your life will go very well. You will not have problems. But if you choose that way, they claim it's choice. If you choose that way, you'll see your life will not be so well. You'll be always discouraged. And that's the thing people are not understanding, that when you are in a country that is run by homophobes, you see, they will not legislate in favor of gay people. It's that sad. It's a sad truth. It's a sad truth. So you have to know when you have decided to be calm in the struggle. Just be calm and persist. Go through, endure the pressures you'll go through. There'll be a lot of things you'll go through. I mean, what Val would have done, if I was Val, I just say, I'm going back to church and join an LGBT affirming ministry. She should have gone. I know she wanted to study theology. She should have studied under in an LGBT affirming school, LGBT affirming theological school, ministry. Because one thing, the beauty of LGBT affirming ministries, they cannot be touched by they cannot be touched by church, by the government, by the state. Why? There is freedom of religion. Remember, it is the same Africa that has Western denominations that have accepted same-sex marriage. The same Africa. Methodist, Lutheran, um, Presbyterian, those churches are in Africa, and you cannot go and close those churches because their Western headquarters have allowed same-sex marriage. No, you can't. It's wrong. It's unconstitutional because freedom of religion is a constitutional right. So you can be gay and religious. That's what I'm trying to give people like Val and others out there who are also struggling whether they should remain or not. It's not about remaining. You are gay, you're gay. That's it. Even gays can even hurt their fellow gays. It's possible. But the fact is you're gay. The only thing that you need to do, like even her, even if she gets married as she wants to get married, I call her bisexual. There is no way she's straight. She has already had sexual experience with fellow women. And I don't know if she has done it, but you don't want to say, but when you come out and say you're an LGBTQ activist, you're saying you have same-sex attraction. So whatever you do, it's up to you. It's private matters. But that said, it is already official. She's a lesbian, and now she's going to get married. So she's going to get married to a man. So basically, she's bisexual. And bisexuality is in different phases. Sometimes there are bisexuals who go through, they have the gay stage first of all, and then they marry, and then they can rest, or in between they have small bits of times with the same sex. And then there are other bisexuals who are just bisexual throughout. They will manage to have sex with both sexes throughout their lifetime. And yeah, that's my take. I don't want to talk so much. I want you to just take time to look through that, but basically understand the environment Val Kalende and other LGBTQ activists are in Africa, and there is hope. There is hope there is light at the end of the tunnel, and the light is the remaining LGBT activists just go on with their life, and continue standing for rights, having long-term and short-term plans. One of the long-term plans is, where are we going as an LGBTQ movement? In each country has its own experiences, and they're in their own stages of LGBTQ advancement. But just because each country is in its own LGBTQ state, it doesn't mean the other LGBTQ countries or other countries which have advanced should not help these ones that are not advancing. That's why we are very grateful to the Western nations that help us by sending donor money, by helping support. We are also very grateful and thankful to UNHCR for what they have done to 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 resettle those who had suffered the homophobic attacks in their homes, and giving them asylum to other countries. Of course, we're going to talk about we have another idea to make UNHCR efficient, because it still has some issues. One of them being backlog, too many cases. Just imagine if there were 500,000 cases of LGBTQ persons. Just imagine. You see, so those are the things we need to discuss, and we're going to give our views when we have time later on. But basically, there is light in the end of the tunnel. I like South Africa, what South Africa already did. See, South Africa was well ahead in time to include sexual orientation in the constitution, and to allow gay marriage. So, what does that do? That stifles and kills the climate of homophobia. That's number one. Number two, it kills the climate of transphobia. It kills all of these phobias. Secondly, psychologically, people have, they will have less, they will have less stress. You see what's happening, what Frank Mugisha is saying that's happening in Uganda. They are having a lot of, are in a place whereby homosexuality is not psychologically, and before it can have an effect on you physically. It can have, because now you will have to hide your back. Most of the times, most people, they're underground. Basically, LGBT movements in very homophobic countries, which is most of the third world, is underground. You don't even know who it is. You're looking for somebody. It's even worse in the villages. Persecuted. It's akin to that. Christians are persecuted in non-Christian majority countries like China. In China, Christians are not the majority. So what happens is the Christians have the underground churches. You see? So there's a trend. If Christians are also persecuted in other countries, and then gays are also persecuted in other countries, why are the gays being persecuted? They are the minority. Simple. So this is something more than just even sexuality. It's about, if you are the majority, you can misuse or abuse your power to oppress another person. Now it's different with what happened in apartheid South Africa and apartheid America. In apartheid America, the slave masters were not as many. A slave master had very many slaves. And it was not until those slaves decided to rebel until, and that's when now America had to make a choice. Should we allow slavery? And that's when they abolished. The North said no more slavery, and then there was a civil war. Then in apartheid South Africa, the whites, the white minority is the one that oppressed the majority. Why? They had the guns. So that's what happens sometimes. You may say there's a case of majority oppressing the minority. Then there's a case when minority, which has a lot of power, it has access to power, and therefore can oppress majority. And that's why I like what Steve Biko said, that he is not fighting for minority rights or majority rights. He is fighting for human rights and human dignity. That is what is supposed to happen. Gay rights. What are the human rights for a gay person? Human rights for a gay person are, number one, not to be arrested for being gay. That's number one. Number two, freedom to marry. Yes. And freedom to stay with whomever you want. Yes. Once you get that as a gay person, you have got your rights. But as long as it's not, that's why our counterparts, and they are doing it right, are going fast for decriminalization, because that is easier than coming up and saying, you want gay marriage. And it's like, people are still, Africa is still evolving on the issue. It's really, there are so many issues. Africa is not the same as the first world. That's what we understand. But it doesn't mean that there are no gay people in Africa. They are there. And that's what I'm saying. It's okay for the LGBT activists to continue with their effort, no matter how long it takes. Survived years of, forced labor for 30 years. They're not even, we don't even have records of half of the slaves that existed. No records. But morning, evening, in the field. In the field. Harsh conditions. If you don't work, you're whipped. If you watch 12 Years a Slave, 12 years as slave. Just think of it. We think 12 years, uh-huh, 12 years, you will know. And you're being whipped. Now, if you're being whipped for 12 years, can you even survive to be whipped for 50 years? Impossible. Impossible. And people were even, with a slave, they look at you when you grow old, they do away with you. Yeah, there's hidden history we don't know. There's that hidden history. That's what we don't know. We just know slaves died, but we don't know how they died. But some, we know they died because of the ferocious beating. But what I'm trying to say is that even though they went through that, they just lived their life. And it's sad to say that, but they endured the hardship, which is why when slavery ended, it is even America. I have suggested to America they need a day to the way they have Thanksgiving in November. They can have a day to reconcile and tell, and the descendants of the masters come and tell the descendants of the slaves, we are sorry. That's a day to remember, to reflect, just to reflect. Of course, they do Martin Luther King, but there is a need because there's racism in America, and that's what's happening. And even I know for Africa, right now the LGBTQ activists may look at themselves and think we are defeated. You're not defeated. Just keep on staying on. Wait, 100 years from now when you're gone, your efforts are being recorded. They are being recorded. And there will be a day in Africa, the Africans will say, how could our ancestors, the ones who are living today now, think so bad and do these things to our LGBTQ ancestors? Because right now you are just a citizen. But in 100 years' time, you'll become an LGBTQ ancestor. Let it stay that way. You don't have to run away from who you are. Because like what she has done, it's like she's just died. Yeah, she's just died. And because even if she's going to be in church and marry, she's going to live through a lot. It's like a divorce. Divorce is not easy. Talk to people who have divorced. They always have attachment. And that's the issue she's going to have to deal with. Withdrawal symptoms from that lifestyle. And I know what she's going through, and I can't force on her like you should remain. No, that's the thing LGBTQ people should be commended for. They are not. There's no need to force somebody to stay. I mean, it's sexuality is private, it's personal. People go through those changes. I also went through them. I didn't understand myself. When I went back to church, I got back to the mold that homosexuality is a sin. But I got deeper because I knew that no, it cannot be a sin. It cannot be a sin. Why? Because it's love. Sexual attraction is beautiful. It is beautiful. The body reacts when you are sexually attracted to the same sex. Just as when somebody who is attracted to different sex reacts. There is no difference. The biological feelings are the same for the same sex and the heterosexual. The same. What does that mean? It means that gay people deserve their rights, just like straight people have their rights. And as I've told you, do you know straight people, they have less stress than the gay people? Do you know gay children have more stress than straight children? It's a fact. Very many. I just posted on Facebook There's a father who has now decided to advocate for his daughter who committed suicide when she was 23 because of being LGBTQ. And I said, this is a father and a half because you have to stand with your child. It is, you can be a straight parent, but that doesn't mean you're going to have straight kids. It doesn't. Genetics is so supreme, it's beyond your control. Do you go and look at your sperm and pick and say this sperm will go and make? That only happens in stem cell reproduction and IVF. But in heterosexual reproduction, there is no picking sperm or egg and saying that this one is now going to come out straight. No, you'll have an LGBTQ child. So when you have an LGBTQ child, you will notice that you will treat them differently. An LGBTQ child is not a straight child. That's what people need to understand. That's what parents need to learn. That's what churches need to teach their congregations. Because it's just like having a blind child is not a deaf child. And a deaf child is not a child who can hear. See? So if you have so what you do is take care of that child. You take care of a deaf child very well. And you take care of an LGBTQ child very well. And you understand he's different. And it's in fact, if a, if a parent is straight, it is easier for him to take care of a straight child than if he is straight or she is straight and the child is LGBTQ. Why? She can't or he can't relate to them. So that's why they need to take their time, how they deal and live with them. And the same applies to an LGBTQ parent who happens to have a straight kid. They, like now what's happening in America, there are very many, now there are gay parents, there are lesbian parents, very good. I support it 100%. But as the children grow, some of those children will not be LGBTQ. So you will have to, you who has not lived a straight life, will have to know how to take care of those children who are straight. And that is what is there. So it's just, it's an interesting thing. Of course, we just wanted to let the world know that that's what has happened in Uganda and Africa, therefore. So it is something everyone is writing about it, and they're writing very good articles. Stella Nyanzi wrote very well about her, and other LGBTQ activists, as I've told you, Frank Mugisha, and they have done it very well. You don't have to. Sexuality is a very private thing. At the same time, it's public, because if it was private, why did she go out to a whole congregation and talk about it? It's like, oh my god. I know sometimes we even do it on YouTube, which is, it's also public, but at least there's no pressure. You don't see people looking at you. Maybe if you see the numbers of the viewers are 10,000, maybe you can now say, oh my goodness, everyone is seeing me. But um, I don't know. What I would say in conclusion, give Val time. She will she'll come to her senses. I know she will. And when she comes back, open up. Don't close the door. Don't close the door. Sexuality is like that. Transgenders go through nightmares just about transitioning. They go through nightmares. Yes, it's part of their sexuality. It's understandable. I mean, do blind people choose to be blind? They don't. Even transgenders don't choose to be transgender. That's what we need to drum in the heads of these homophobes. They need science. Very serious science in their head. Completely. I am for a revolutionized Africa. A scientific Africa. Even if you want to be religious, at least be scientific. Yes, if you want to go to church, go to church, go to the mosque, but please don't forget science. Please fight to know science. You will not attack your children. You will not make your children suffer. Because the parents of Val may say, yes, now she's saved. Then what happens? Something can happen to her. She can decide to take her life. What will you say? Whose fault will it be? Now will it be the church? Rick Warren's son committed suicide on the same thing. And when Rick Warren was going on TV, he was against homosexuality. And his son was a homosexual. And fighting it because dad is a pastor. And he died. And now, are you seeing what's happening in the American church? Millennials are not going to church because they are seeing contradictions. So, before I get emotional, let me go now. Anyway, that's what's happening now. And as I've said, I still have open arms for her. If she comes back to the fold, well and good. I know she's just going through confusion because of religion. Religion does that to the mind.